Hello, here we go again. Let's get to work. Have you had a nice lunch break? I did. I I want to start making a hotbar for selecting tiles, and after that I want to formalize tile placement. So basically make it a bit more methodical how a tile is placed. Right now that this is just happening in the main class, so it's a bit weird. Probably need to move that somewhere else if I can figure out how I want to do that. In other news, I took a little bit of the time during the break to make some new issues. This one I made a while ago, tile metadata. I've already explained that in the previous stream. Basically, I want to know, I want to make a decision on the type of data I'm going to use as a backend for tiles, and this will affect how much metadata we can use, how much different types of tiles we can use. So yeah, this is an issue that already existed. I've just added two new issues. The game name. I would like to hear a name for the game. Right now it's just codenamed Unity Grid Game. A name should, of course, have several desirable properties, otherwise your game will never be successful. Which, yeah, those are described over here in this list. So if anyone has any good ideas, I would love to hear about them. And just, yeah, put a comment on the issue, and we will see. I will eventually decide upon the name, even if I don't hear anything. But that might still be a while in the future before I actually have a good idea of where the game is going and what kind of name I might want. So the third is somewhat related, an elevator pitch. So basically I have a description here of what an elevator pitch is. It's basically a very short description of the game, less than 3 sentences. So if anyone has any good ideas for that, then we could put them in here. Do keep in mind that this is not going to be a game about no, this game is going to be about everything described over here. So I might just want to paste it somewhere. So basically this game will focus around building, it will focus around piloting vehicles, and it will focus around resource gathering, crafting, and stuff like engineering. So that's a whole list. I'm not exactly sure yet which of these elements is going to be the most important. So it might be a while before we can actually address these two issues. But I've already put them here just so that we can start thinking about it. So yeah, that's what I just did during lunch. Let's start with the actual work for now. So I want to create a hotbar for selecting tiles, because right now we can actually we can do some very limited editing. If I right click, then I can draw wood, because that's the tile that we currently set it to make. And I can remove tiles. But of course I want to be able to select between different types of tiles. and it looks like my jetpack's not working. Okay, so that was disabled. Yeah. Yeah, so then I want to have some way to we'll have to divide this problem up into several sub-problems. One of them is drawing the actual hotbar and scrolling through it. Uh, I'll probably, yeah, we're already using the scroll bar for zooming, so I don't know if I want to reuse the scroll bar for that. Right now I think we'll just use the number keys on the keyboard. I think that will work nicely. And for the rendering of the tile icons, we might have to write some new code. In fact, I think we will need to write some new code. So let's try to do that first. Let's see if we can actually access the tiles from the registry. Atlas, tiles by index, tiles by name. So are these already accessible? Yeah, we have a list here, which might be kind of dangerous, because this actually provides access to the list through an interface. So others might remove stuff from the list. Don't know if I want to expose it like that, but I guess I'll just leave it for now. Let's see where get tiles is used. Damn it, just fucked up a little bit. So it's used in base game modes. Yeah, to create the tile variants. And it's used in main. Yeah, so that's to determine if a certain tile that we are placing is solid or not. That's a bit weird. Why is this working like this? Oh, yeah. I guess this makes sense. Yeah. So what I really want to do is to gradually replace this one with a new one that's a bit safer. So this will do tiles by index. It's gonna be a tile ID, I guess. So then we also want get tile by name, which is why we have a tiles by name dictionary. And it might also be useful to query the number of tiles that are registered. Get registered tiles count to tiles by index count. Okay. So now all the tiles should be easily accessible. Going to change this one to the new version. This is really just a little bit too little screen space. Tile value. Of course I could get rid of this outline thing, but I kinda like it. Maybe I just, yeah, this feels nicer to me. So, can we actually do this in a better way? Okay, tile count is tile registry dot get registered tiles count. Maybe we'll just call it get tile count. And then for this one, we need something different. Let's remove that. Tiles get registry dot get tile. Let's see if everything still works as I want it to work. Looks like everything works properly. So now we should no longer need to return this list, which is safer. commit that before we continue. Add tile access methods in tile registry. That's a good commit message. Yeah. So now we somehow need to. We already seem to have a sprite UV. How do we get access to the actual texture? What's the best way to handle that? It might be good to just put a tile variant array in the tile object, maybe. The nicest way to do it would, of course, be to return a sprite object, which just contains both a reference to the texture and the UVs of the sprite. Right now those are calculated in main, in base game class. They should probably be calculated somewhere else. Let's try to define a sprite. Public sprite icon. Internal set. Yeah, public set is also acceptable. Let's see if we can actually set maybe define a sprite. Sprite's not a special Unity object, or is it? It does seem to contain a lot of extra information. Yeah. So I guess I'll just make this a rect, and then make this icon UV, public texture 20. atlas. Putting a reference to the atlas in the tile may not be entirely nice to do, but yeah, maybe I'll just leave that out. Any chance to use less memory is probably a good idea. So, if we are dealing with the first variant, then we want to use that as the icon. Unless you're starting to talk about metadata, but I guess we'll handle that later. Actually, that wouldn't be too much of a problem, no? Contains UVs for all variants of this tile. So we'll make an array out of this. That's probably a better way to handle it. So then we don't need this. Tile dot icon UV is new. Oh no, and variants. Yeah, that's it. Now for every variant, of course, we should fill that array. And let's see, I'll just move this over here. It's a sprite segment. So I guess we'll have to convert that to a rect. Maybe I should have used a rect there in the first place, but yeah. Position size. Y width height. Yeah, this is going to be too long. Movable block UV bricks. Diamond. Max. Okay. This should get us something close to what we want. Okay. I think that should work to fill our rectangle array with the proper icons. Now we just need a way to select a tile and to render the hotbar and stuff. I guess I'll just do something with OnGUI for now. Windows 0, client direct, yeah. What do we want to use as a window size? Let's try 50 pixels for now. Window size, window function. And of course, content or text. Let's just do bar. So let's see what this is doing. Okay. Now let's set the center to a screen width multiplied by 0.5. Cannot modify. Yeah. Center equals. So now we've set the center over to the middle of the screen. Of course, we could also move it to the middle of the bottom of the screen, like is used in many games. Right, 50. Okay, that's right, minus 50. Minus window height. Okay. So yeah, now the hotbar is at the bottom of our screen. Now we should be able to draw some icons. How do we draw this stuff? Box texture. Draw a texture within a rectangle with the given texture coordinates. I think this is what we need. Icon size is... yeah, how big do we want it? 50 maybe? 40? Let's try 40. Oh wait, let's make this 70. Make the icon size 64. That's a nice round number. Lid height. So we can get the atlas. Texture, text chords. Ah yes. Now we can get the tile. And it's icon UV, and I guess I'll just take the first variant first. Okay, that will be our icon UV. We can use that to draw the thing. Now I'm kind of worried about this GUI to draw texture with text chords. I'm worried it might not just not draw it in the window, but just on the screen somewhere. Because it maybe doesn't care about the layouting. Oh, maybe it does. Oh, this actually works pretty well. Just doesn't care about the coordinates. So, vector 2. So, vector 2. So I'm just rewriting this little bit. icon red. Composition. That's probably more useful. These can go out of the loop. Now I still need to set the tile position. I mean the icon position. Margin. You know what, 5 pixels maybe. So this sets the new position of the icon. And that should probably work decent. Work quite well, maybe. Yeah. So let's see. This is air. This is stone. This is concrete. This is dirt. This is grass, gravel, sand, wood. Yeah. So that works. So let's start at 1 because we don't need to worry about air tiles. Let's just increase the size of our window a little bit. Set the offset. So now we have something that at least vaguely looks like a hotbar. want to see if I can maybe get something like using this UV in something more easily used. I want to make these into buttons somehow. Well, it's a bit long ago since I worked on GUI code. Of course, I could also just move over to the other system, but then you have to do all this bookkeeping, game objects, children of game objects, all kinds of components. So I don't want to do that right now, I just want something simple. What was it? GUI utility, maybe? There was this class which had all these useful stuff for GUI in Unity. Something like this. GUI layout utility, maybe? Get lost, right? Draw icon button. Something like this thing. this texture. So what I'm trying to do here is to make like a function that turns that draw texture thing into a button. Dot. How did we get access to this event? There was some way to do it using GUI. Event.current, that was it. Is this a mouse event? Yes. And event.current. That's pressed. Let's see. Let's make this a bit shorter, but making this local. Button. So if this is a mouse event and it's a mouse down event and the button is the 0 button, which is the left mouse button usually, then we return true. And we can simply do that like this. So we need really the if statement. And yeah, we could draw it slightly larger if we are hovering over the thing, but that's not really polishing stuff that we want to do right now. Click. Selected tile 11, selected tile 21. Okay, this is weird. It's probably not what I wanted. For one thing, it's happening too often. So bool, let's see. Can I figure out from the event when if this is a one-time key press mouse event? Mouse down or mouse click? Yes. We'll have to set up a delay and check. Ah, come on. Oh, click count. This might be a good one. I do not really understand this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Why is it saying that? Really? We had forgotten about the mouse position. So they were all responding to the same click event. So now we're checking whether the mouse is inside or mouse position. And now we're seeing what we want, I believe. This is not correct. Yeah, so now we have a working GUI. That's cool. Now what I want to do is change the icons so they look prettier. I want to include the borders in the decorations. I want to include the tile decorations in the icon. There. I'm having trouble talking today. Not really articulating my thoughts very well for some reason. Mm. We need to be in this thing. Yeah. We probably need to move this entire bit somewhere else. Oh, hello, weird constructor. Thanks for the follow. Are you enjoying the stream? Probably, otherwise you wouldn't have followed. Mm. How are you doing? Let's see. So, yeah, here we're taking the UV middle, and we want to expand the area a little bit. Sometimes it helps if you drink a beer to improve talking. Ah, yeah, maybe. Alcohol can definitely make you a little bit looser, I guess. I find your project interesting. Well, thank you. I also think it's really interesting. Um, I think this could actually be a project that I might actually be able to finish. And maybe release as something cool. More chatty, yeah. Yeah, alcohol makes you chatty. I am, unfortunately, I'm not really a fan of alcohol. It took me a really long time until I started to accept beer. I still don't really like it, but I don't hate it anymore. And yeah, other alcohol, yeah, don't really like it either. So I want to take my source file where I had these guidelines as a visual aid. Okay, so right now we're looking at this area, and this little area is now the icon that is being used. Alcohol is really an acquired taste. I understand you. Ah, well, everyone I spoke to, they seem to feel it's perfectly normal to like alcohol. I've never understood it, but maybe it is indeed an acquired taste. I've never liked coffee either. Maybe it's just that I don't like things that are bitter. So yeah, this is our icon. Hey Eltman, how are you doing? Thanks for the follow. Um, are you also enjoying the stream? So yeah, I want to make this area a bit larger so we can take this whole region. So I'm going to modify this piece here. V left. UV right. And this will be 00x, this will be 11x. That's the x-axis taken care of. UV bottom. UV top. Let's see how this works. Okay, this works exactly as I wanted to. So now we can select tiles. Of course we don't have any styling yet, so it's a bit boring, but at least now we can select tiles. Or at least we will be able to once I finish implementing the selection. So, let's see. Of course this is all temporary code, mostly just to make sure we can test other stuff easier. Yeah. On GUI code is actually kinda fine, unless you need to really take every inch of performance out of your game. Then you might be better off with the newer, more modern stateful GUI. But I think for a project like this, using all GUI might be a better idea. Not entirely sure of what I want to do yet in GUI, but at least this is a simple thing that's easy to implement and throw away later. So if there's a click, then I want to change the selection. Just make a selection variable. I currently develop a game with a 2D platformer part. How do you do gravity and collision handling? Does Unity come with all that out of the box? Well, there's quite a few things that are handled by Unity out of the box. But if you want really, if you want the best kind of movement, then you might want to do a lot of your movement code yourself. The way Unity works is if you're using colliders and rigid bodies, then of course you only get notified of collisions after they happen. So basically when it's already too late. That might not be very useful in certain situations. So yeah, the physics engine can handle collisions for you, but it might not handle them the way you want them to. So one way to deal with that is to do some manual raycasting yourself to make things behave more like you want it to. Once I'm done with this, I could take a look at the character movement code for you and explain it. It shouldn't be much longer. So let's set tile selection to 1 by default, because 0 is not interesting. It's just an empty air tile. And the first one is stone. And once we click the button, set the tile selection to the index of that tile. And of course, all of this works because we have very few tiles right now. So once we start adding more, it's a more complex system. Oh yeah, I forgot about this thing. Still need to change this. Yeah. Selection, tile selection. Where does this get called? Oh, right on top. This is where we want to be. Tile selection. So now, Oh, it's a U short. That's true. Uh, guess I'll just maybe convert it to a U short here. Hey, Space Intern. How's it going? Yeah, I'm doing fine. Uh, if everything is working as intended, then I should be able to edit to select different types of tiles now and edit the terrain. How are you doing? So let's see. So we can still remove tiles. We can add tiles. So this is stone. Stone has funny colors right now because I was working on tile variations in one of the previous streams. So if I select concrete, then I can draw concrete tiles. And that's really cool. Now we can just draw whatever we want on the terrain. Let's just enable the jetpack over here. So yeah, that's tile selection working. And then eventually we'll probably have to rewrite it so it makes use of an inventory of some kind. And have a fixed number of slots, which may or may not contain blocks or tiles. You are doing good? You're still working on your game's graphics? Hey, seems like you have advanced a lot. That's great. Yeah, I'm making steady progress. It's really nice. I'm kind of happy with the way things are going now. Getting closer and closer. How do you like this wood sprite? It's kind of neat, right? Maybe eventually I'll be able to not only list stuff like programming and game design, but also pixel art on my skill sheet. Oh, something weird just happened. What the hell? This is our character. For some reason we jumped amazingly high just now. We were like 2 kilometers up. And this is where we ended up. So yeah, still a few glitches. We had constructor. Let's take a look at how I did character movement. I did my character movement slightly different from what you might normally want to do in a side-scrolling game. Because in most side-scrolling games, the terrain is mostly fixed. It does not move mostly, apart from a few dynamic objects. In my game, terrains can move, so that offers a lot of possibilities for objects to collide against you. And in other side-scrolling games, you are more likely to collide with something else, because you are the one moving, your character is moving. So then, if that's the case in your game, I don't know what kind of game you want to make, but I'm assuming it might be that way. If your player character is the only one that's moving, then you don't really need any colliders on the player. So you can use mostly just raycasts to see, oh, is there any collider below my feet? If yes, then I am grounded and I do not need gravity to be applied to myself. You could also take the horizontal velocity, for example, and then do a raycast to the front, or rather to the left or to the right. And then if that raycast hits something, then you can take measures to stop at exactly the right place, so you don't, so your character doesn't move into the wall. So if your world is mostly static, then I would just advise you to mostly do your collisions and stuff using raycasts, and of course your character movement, you might want to do that manually, kinematic, so that you have absolute complete control over how the movement works. In my game I cannot really do that because here we need to respond to objects that might be moving into me. I do have access line bounding box collision, that code I can reuse for projectiles. Okay, yeah, cool. Yeah, for projectiles you can also use raycasts. Those are probably even slightly more efficient than just comparing two colliders. So with a projectile it's even easier, because a projectile is just always moving to a front or in the direction that it's going, and you don't really need to worry about uh, colliding from the sides or anything, unless you have very slow moving large projectiles, of course. Then it's more of a traditional situation. But let me show you the grounded raycast. So most of the collisions is handled by the physics system, but I'm using one raycast to determine if we are on the ground, if we can jump and stuff like that. So yeah, if you're doing a raycast, then you just need to check if there is any rectangle within the path of the ray, which is probably easier than uh, checking if two rectangles overlap. Well, probably won't make that much difference, but every little bit helps, probably. But the most important thing is that um, if you handle the collisions in your own code, then you can have absolute control over how you respond to them. And you can, if you're using raycasts, then you can respond to them before the collision actually happens. And that's very useful. But yeah, in my game, I'm kind of forced to use rigid bodies and, and velocity and forces, uh, because the player is not the only thing that's moving. Large grids can also move. Let's see. What did I want to do? So yeah, I've done this. And then we are going to formalize tile placement. Now I'm kind of wondering if I should do this in the world object or somewhere else. So basically I want to take these two functions and move them somewhere more appropriate. I'm not entirely sure yet where this more appropriate place would be. I think, yeah, one option would be the world. But another option would be a system. What do I want to do? Let's just try to figure out the pros and cons of both approaches. So, if I put this stuff in the world, then the world is no longer really a very simple data holder. It will hold logic. I may not want that. I kinda like it being this simple. If I put it in a system, then it's more compartmentalized, the logic. It's more in a place that it probably makes sense to be in. On the other hand, it will also be less accessible, because all other systems that somehow want to change tiles in the world, they will have to access it through the yeah, what do you call such a system? They will have to access it through the tile placement system or something like that. Also, right now the world is kind of generic. It's not really dependent on any specific system or data layer. And if I put this logic inside this inside the world class, then suddenly the world is no longer very generic. I think I want to put these methods in a system. I think that's the way to go. Yeah, let's do that. So how do I want to name that system? I could name it like tile placement or something, but it's not really very interesting. Maybe I should call it something like a world manager or something. Because we're going to have to also make a system to load and unload chunks. Maybe a chunk manager system might be a good name. Name it grid editor. Yeah, that might work, but that implies editing, which is something I think is something rather. I think that implies user-facing functionality. A grid editor system might be very useful if I want some kind of system that allows me to edit tiles in God mode, which is basically how it works right now. But right now I'm trying to think of how I want to structure the back end of that. So yeah, Okay, missed the subject then, sorry. Oh, no worries. No worries. It's a good idea. Actually, you just gave me a very good idea. I think we can make a grid editor system which contains all of this. So basically all the user-facing code related to editing the grid. And then we can also use we can also make the backend system, which takes care of this stuff. Dynamic grid flux compensator. Quick, charge the flux capacitor. We need to get out of here. Back to the future. Dynamic grid flux compensator. That's actually quite an interesting name. Maybe I'll make a game someday about dynamic grid flux compensators. Let me just put that in my notes. Google. So that's done. You just need 1.21 gigabytes. That must be a lot of memory. Yeah. So let's start making these systems then. Let's just make this a bit larger. Earlier today I tried having 2 code windows, but yeah, I don't like it. So let's add a system. Grid editor system. What was it? Something like this. Base system. Okay. I might just decide to make these things virtual, because we might not always need them. Yeah, I'm just now going for regular updates. Or actually, yeah, we can do this. We can just, yeah. So, let's do this. Icon button on GUI. Yeah, all of this. Oh. Oh yeah, it's happening in GUI. Yeah. But that's no worries, this is components. Why is everything red? We must implement the using. Oh yeah, we need a reference to the tile registry. So let's this thing. So this is just a little trick to easily create a game object, put the component on it, and give it a name and stuff like that. So this is implemented in game system base. We also want to have access to the tile registry. Tile selection, generate fields, private int. Okay, that's okay. Why is this not being used? Yeah. The hardest part in finishing a game is to not come up with more and more cool ideas one wants to include. I usually pile up too big of a mountain of cool ideas with too little time to implement. Yes, definitely. I know all about that. I hope I can keep the scope reasonable for this game. It might already be too complex, given all the things I want to include. But I think it should be doable, my current vision for the game. Yeah. So, where do these get called? Oh yeah, these also need to be in the grid editor system, I guess. But I'll wait a bit with moving those. Yeah. How should I name the backend? The system that's responsible for changing tiles. Maybe something like grid management system. That's almost as bad as anything that ends in manager. But yeah, maybe it's the most appropriate here. Of course, yeah, this thing will also manage chunks and stuff, so it might do a lot of things. related to grids. I once read in a book about game design that one approach could be to first build a fun toy like a cool sandbox and then implement game mechanics around it. Yes, that's definitely a very good way to do it. Yeah, I'm inching slowly towards hopefully being able to implement a few fun things. But yeah, I already have the ability to edit terrain and to walk around, so I think I'm going in the right direction. Uh, will you stream regularly? Well, yeah, I try to stream during the day, European time. I don't always succeed in that. I'm still a relatively new streamer. I still get exhausted rather quickly, but I try to stream most of the day. I usually try to start around 10 a.m. Central European summertime. I live in the Netherlands. And then I stream until like lunch break. And sometimes I take a short lunch break, and sometimes I take a large lunch break. And then I try to work several more hours until the end of the afternoon. I'm still thinking about if I want to keep this schedule, because I'm thinking it might be better to move to afternoon and the evening. I'm not entirely sure about that yet, but that's the schedule that the day schedule is what I'm doing right now. So yeah, I'm relatively new at streaming. I started streaming last Wednesday, last week I mean. And yeah, I think it's doing very good things for me. I'm having fun. It's kind of forcing me to organize my projects a bit better, because I want people to be entertained. I want to actually get some useful stuff done during the stream. So I really need to think about what I'm going to work on before I start actually working on it. And yeah, that it's really helped me out. How come you have so much time for these projects? I can barely manage to stream 2 times a week. I have a full-time job though. Yeah, well, right now I don't have a full-time job, so that's why I have a lot of time. Uh, I'm trying to get a job, but yeah, I find it difficult to find a job that interests me, especially for a longer time. But I am looking for a job, and if I find a job, then I'll probably be streaming less frequently. Maybe in the evenings more often, or in the weekend. I just don't know yet. Uh, Grid manager system. Uh, Actually, maybe it should be like this: world management. Yeah, I think I'm going to go with that name. So let's copy this stuff. Can also remove this. Might just, yeah, game system base. Maybe I should move the base to the front of the name. Might be less confusing. Implement abstract class. Okay. Okay. Let's just move that around. Move those methods to the new home. One thing you might consider is raising the font size. I often watch it via TV, tablet, or smartphone. Yeah, I could set it a bit higher. Um, I seem to remember setting the font size higher, but maybe it reverted back to default for some reason. One problem is right now I just cannot see the font size anywhere. Um, I can see it getting larger, but I can't see a number anywhere. Maybe it's this one? So a percentage? Maybe if I want to set it permanently, I need to go into the settings or something. Maybe appearance. Fonts and colors. Ah, here it is. So now I can set this to 100%. So now it should be a bit larger. I think I'll set it to 14. This should be easier to read, right? So yeah, I think every time I open Visual Studio from from like the next day or so, and I think this goes back to 100%. So I believe setting it in the options is a better idea. make sure to adjust permanent settings. Yeah. Or to probably take some getting used to, but yeah, it's fine. So yeah, this system needs access to the foreground and solid layers, and probably also the background eventually. So I'm gonna have to change these. Are these still used anywhere? Other than here? No. Looks like they are not. So basically uh, these are basically just a struct that contains an integer, and those will be used to index into a list of references to buffers. So if we want to change a layer of data inside a chunk, then we need to grab the chunk, and then we need to know which idea the buffer that we want to edit has. So then we can actually modify that buffer. We don't need to access this one. Is that one actually used anywhere? Playstyle does not exist. Hallway tree does not exist. Yeah, that's fine. So we can probably remove this. We'll make these private. So we're going to have to supply the layer IDs in this create, which basically serves the same purpose as a constructor. The currently working online is something I don't see too often too. Really helpful. I do that too. Thank you. I thought it was a nice idea. I've watched a few programming streams, and it seems very difficult to actually determine what the other guy is doing often. So if you have a little description of what they are doing, then it might be might be more interesting. And yeah, I've also noticed that some of them have their text really, really small. I don't even have a TV. I just have a monitor, and even I cannot read it sometimes. So thank you for alerting me to that. I had not noticed that I was actually using a smaller font than I intended. Solid layer ball. Yeah, yeah, it can sometimes be hard to get into when someone is, of course, making something complex. Then it could be really difficult to see what exactly they are trying to do. Which is why usually I try to at least describe what I'm trying to do now. So um, is that solid layable? So this is just some boilerplate. So now the only thing that we need to access is the tile registry. Um, yeah, I guess we can also use that. We can also add that to the constructor. So basically we just, right now we're trying to inject all the dependencies of this object inside the constructor. And that means we don't need to go looking for them when we actually need them, because we already have one. And because we are injecting these in this, well, fake constructor, it's something similar to a constructor, we force ourselves to think about exactly which data this component needs and what it interacts with. So you have, I believe, less chances of the whole game turning into spaghetti code. Too bad Twitch just was regarding nakedness. Or else coders could try to attract female viewers by streaming topless. Oh, yeah. I don't know what I would feel about that. Funny though. Uh, so funny. Nice. So that should give us access to pretty much everything. Playstyle. Okay, yeah, that looks good. So now we can go back to this game mod. So this is another thing that you might be interested in. I have this class here, base game mod. I'm not entirely sure how I want to name it just yet. But the idea is that this will be the baseline for yeah, for the modding system in the game. I think I want to encourage modding somehow. And if I make all the content in the game that's part of the base game part of a mod which gets loaded at runtime, then theoretically, maybe it should be relatively easy to make similar kinds of mods which add content to the game. or just DLC. That could also be an option. So this mod, of course, has quite a lot of power. It has the ability to add different types of tiles. It has the ability to add different kinds of data layers to chunks. So it has the ability to add different kinds of systems to the game. So that could potentially be really an interesting way to support modding in this game if I ever release it. For example, someone could make a mod which adds some extra data layer, maybe some kind of byte buffer, so that every single cell in the grid has one extra byte of data that can be used by this mod to maybe do something like atmospherics for maybe a space station or a submarine, so that every tile can contain a little bit of oxygen, maybe. Um, or maybe some other mod wants to do something differently. Maybe they want to try adding some pathfinding to the game, in which case you might maybe do some kind of heat maps or something for monsters to find their way towards players. Just an idea. So I think that's a nice approach. What was I wanting to do? Oh yeah, I wanted to add the system. Register game systems, tile renderer. Did I already add this editor system? No, I did not add I did not add that system yet. Yeah. So world management system. World manager is new. Wait, that should be create. Okay, tile registry, solid layer, foreground layer, tile background layer. Wait, did I forget something? Yeah, it should be alright, like this. Okay, then second line, grid editor system. Tile registry. Now the thing is, this grid editor system will need access to the world manager. Probably a lot of systems are going to need access to that. Because the grid editor will do the user facing side, and the world manager will actually take care of updating the buffers, making sure that maybe neighboring tiles are notified that there was a change in another tile, sort of like how the block updates work in Minecraft. So I'll probably want to give the world manager here. So of course I needed to add it to this object. Thinking about modding early is a good idea. My game, I am at moving the game logic into the scripting interface and only did running in core mechanics in C++. Yeah. That's it's one of those things that's probably difficult to bolt on later. Just like networking, that's probably also one of the things that if you want to implement networking in the game, it's useful to think about how you're going to do that stuff really early, design your game around it. And speaking of networking, I think I might want to start working on that maybe next week somewhere. Perhaps even before I implement stuff like vehicles. Not entirely sure yet, but I really want to get that design down, see what's problematic and what works and stuff like that, before I really build a lot of content on top of the game. So yeah, now this game has access to the world manager. So we can actually move this stuff. Is this private? Takes 2 arguments. Oh, yeah, world. This in theory should work. Still need to save this file. Let's remove the crap. It's finally looking a bit cleaner. These are no longer used. Oh yeah, we still need to add these to the systems list. World manager, and the same for grid editor. Yeah, having the core of the game done is necessary for me to be able to focus on content creation. Yeah, content creation is really something you want to do once you know you have most of the fundamentals in place. Icon UV is never assigned. Why? Oh. Task selection is assigned but never used. Oh yeah, we can get rid of that because we don't need it. This one is assigned but never used. Yeah, we're eventually gonna use it. We'll not use it right now. So I'll leave that warning and we'll see if everything still works. And everything seems to be working. Yeah, everything works. So if I now disable the grid system, then voila, we will no longer have any of this. So yeah, that's, I think, a very major advantage of having all these systems here in a very organized way. You have this list, and if you want to disable some system, then you can easily do that. And yeah, if you need some special enable or disable behavior, then you can implement it here. But in this case, we don't need that. It's a bit better than to have maybe your GUI code attached to your player avatar object, which then also needs access to the world grid, and you end up with all these references which then zigzag all over the place like some kind of spider's web, or rather a huge ball of yarn might be a more appropriate analogy. So let's play a bit. um, let's just enable the jetpack. Let's go to full screen for a bit. That's nice. Nicer. What happens if I do this? This is fun. I'm not sure this should be allowed in the final game, but it's fun. Does anyone watch anime? Just a question. Because right now there's an anime show on TV with something a little bit similar. It's called Kado, and this this extra-dimensional alien comes from the anisotropic universe inside a giant cube-like object called Kado. And every time I see this cube thing, it reminds me of that. Oh, and we have a glitch again. I think it's something to do with the step assist code. You might still get a little bit confused every now and then. So I wonder how long it will take before we fall down. Oh, there we go. You see, we probably were falling so quickly that we just fell down into this straight through the rock. Maybe we need to enable continuous dynamics or something like that in the rigid body. I notice that the stream encoding has a little bit of trouble keeping up with this high amount of detail on the screen. I hope it wasn't too annoying just now. Let me just try to zoom in a little bit more. Yeah, that's what I wanted to do for now. What else do we want to do? You know, maybe I want to do a little small thing. One of the previous streams, maybe yesterday or the day before that, I worked on tile variations. So we have all these colored tiles, which are all different variations of stone tiles. And I'm kind of getting a little bit sick of seeing those. So maybe I want to do some changes to the texture so that our terrain looks nice again, and not like some kind of weird debugging visualization thing. So maybe I'll do that right now. So these are just 3 different kinds of stone. Right now they're colored, so I could easily distinguish them while I was debugging, but that's no longer needed. Basically I could just maybe randomize them a little bit. Let's see, will this work as I want it to? I'll just try it out. Which did I use previously? Noise, distort. Maybe it was noise. Yeah, let's just try one of these. Yeah, this is one of those things that I do not like in GIMP. Like, why only this small preview window? Why not just show it over here? I like your tiles, but my graphical design skills are not at all up to my coding skills. Well, yeah, I'm not very good at, pixel art either. I just basically I think what I did was just I just made like this square, and then I used some kind of randomize function on it, and then I made like this center here lighter, something like that. I cannot find this random function that I used to use. Cannot see any difference here. I'm on the right layer, right? I am not on the right layer. Yeah. I'm now officially an idiot. Oh wow. That's a little bit too much. try the ASV noise again. That's actually kinda good. Let's just repeat that. So yeah, this might be really nice. Let's see how this works. Export stone. Wow, this doesn't look half bad. Maybe I don't even need a pixel artist. Why is my jump so low? Just I could swear I used to. Yeah, maybe it's just a little bit. Yeah, yeah. This actually looks really good. So if I just get rid of all this concrete here, we might be able to look at this a bit more. Yeah, that's really nice. So I think you can still maybe see a little bit of a pattern, but it's not really all that noticeable. But this definitely looks better than the red, green, blue pattern, right? maybe maybe next session I should be working on procedural terrain generation. Add some dirt and some grass maybe. That could really give a little bit of a visual boost to the terrain. Because right now everything is grey. Yeah, cool. Let's see. Oh yeah, I should quickly commit all those things. Not this one. So let's see if we didn't change anything weird. I usually do a review of what I'm going to commit, what I've staged. Yeah, this is all fine. Okay, so did I already commit the task selection previously? No. Added task selection and moved tile placement. With editor system, move tile placement to hot management. system. I guess I'll also commit this one. Proper tile variations for stone. Modified. They're probably not final yet, but they're better than they used to be. Let's push all this. Let's see, it's now 16:30. Let's see, what can I still do? Formalize tile placement, yeah, I did that. Figure out client-server networking architecture, character, equipment, player characters, independent tools. That's all basically stuff for later, I guess. DAO entities might be interesting, but are not strictly needed yet. Saving system, yeah, all of this is stuff that I don't want to do just yet, so I guess I'll have to do some more work on my to-do list. I guess I'll just add the thing that I'm going to work on right now, which is add dirt and grass to terrain. So that's what I'm going to work on now. Let's change the text box. Okay, let's do that. Now I have a few ways I can deal with this. I could just take some U shorts for the different types of tiles that we want to generate here, or I could just refer back to the base game modes stuff. I guess I'll just add it here. Short. Tile stone. Tile dirt. Tile grass. And I don't really want to render concrete anymore, so we don't need that. Guess we'll just have to make the constructor even larger. maybe just this is probably a bit neater, perhaps less efficient, but networking, at least what should be done via networking have an impact on the overall design. You have it in mind for writing the engine? Yeah, I think I have a rough idea of how I want to do networking. I basically I want to make a networking system somewhat similar to the other systems we already have. And then this networking system is probably going to have its own thread to receive packages from the server, or to send packages to the clients if we're running in the server. And this networking system will then, if packages come in, then the networking system will redistribute those packages to the other systems which are interested in that type of package. So eventually every system will register for certain types of packages. And then they, by packages I mean messages, basically. And at the start of the game, of course, a lot of message types will be registered, and they will all have their own IDs and stuff, and that will allow them to be routed. And I think that's how I'm going to implement it. A rough idea. The hard part is to figure out what's done by the server and what by the client. Yes, yes. That's probably the hard part. To be honest, I don't have much experience in networking, so it will probably be quite a challenge to actually find a good way to handle it. I've worked a little bit with networking when I worked at Double Dutch on speedrunners. But other than that, I have very, very little experience with networking. So yeah, now we should have access to the stone, dirt and grass tiles. Let's just add air for the sake of yeah, air has its own tile type. I think this makes sense. Oh, wait a minute. Do tiles actually contain their ID? Guessing, I guess I probably should put that in there. Like, shorts, ID. I'm also like considering metadata for tiles, like how Minecraft does it. They use, or at least they used to. They used to use a short integer, which is 16 bits, and then the least 4 significant bits they used as tile metadata. So they had 12 bits left over for the actual ID of the tile, and 16 bits, 4 bits, a number with a max of 15 for the tile variations. So I'm still wondering if I want to keep using a ushort, or if maybe I want to use an unsigned integer, 32 bits, and then, well, yeah, you will have the ability to have a huge number of types of tiles, even if you make the meta data a little bit larger, like 8 bytes, 8 bits, 1 byte. I'm not entirely sure yet what I want to do exactly. So right now this is all going to be stone. I think we need to do this in the tile registry. This constructor is really getting long. Maybe I should just pass a reference to the base game mod, because that will have all the tiles in the base game, stuff like that. Maybe that's a better approach, but I'll see about doing that later, maybe. Uh, but if you want to, when does this get called? Yeah, so that's after all the other stuff happens. So I really want to move this somewhere else, somewhere to the end. Public. So I need to make these tiles accessible from outside this function. Should have made them member fields a long time ago. Guess I'll maybe also do that with other stuff. What I can do that later. Empty is probably a better name indeed. all of this was just refactoring, mostly. Okay, now we have mostly stone. Can you guys see a pattern anywhere in this? Do you see see that it obviously tiles? Yeah, I do still see a few patterns, but it's not really very annoying. I think it looks pretty good. Let me just play around building a house. Yay, I built a house. Now I just have to wait for the NPC to move in. Okay, yeah. So now let's try actually adding this dirt and grass layer. Now that we have access to the right numbers and stuff. So how do I want to do this? We have this method, generate tile, grid coordinates. This is probably not what we want. We will probably want to like maybe first generate the chunk like we are doing now, like generate all the stone tiles, and maybe after that we want to iterate from the top to the bottom, and then the first tile that we find, maybe we want to make that the grass tile, and then maybe several tiles below that we will make it dirt. That could be an interesting way to do it. Not exactly sure how other games achieve it. Like in Minecraft it's easy because they have a fixed terrain height. So you just start at the highest possible tile and you just walk down until the first tile you encounter, and then you make that grass or dirt. But in my game, the terrain could potentially be very high in some places. You don't want to generate more chunks than you need. I'm guessing the best way to do it is to designate some kind of base surface level like we already have, which is over here, ground level. And then we can say like we can do the algorithm that I just mentioned, the looping downwards. We could start like one or two chunks above ground level, then walk over maybe 2 or 3 chunks, and then we'll find a lot of tiles. That might also be a good way to do it, because then for the deeper levels you don't need to execute that algorithm. You can just skip it, and yeah, you will have generated some terrain. Yeah, that might be a good idea. Let's just walk through it visually before I try to implement that in code. So I generate a terrain. Right now I'm always generating the same terrain because I'm using the same seed value all the time, but theoretically I should be able to just generate a ton of different terrains. Mm, so right now most of our landscape is around this region, and below that is usually caves, and above that it's usually air. Grass only with light, sunlight. Yeah, yeah, but I don't have any lighting yet. But yeah, I could do like something similar to a raycast. Like I could like start over here where I know there won't be much uh, terrain, and just walk down until the first tile I see becomes grass, and then I'll put a bit of dirt beneath it. So let's see. If I take the world, um, if I then draw chunk boundaries, then yeah, I'll probably want to start the search around here maybe, which is the third chunk, which has a Y level 0, 1, 2. Faking is always okay if you can get away with it. Yes, yes, it is. So we're using like multiple passes over a chunk, generate grass and dirt. Now I need to be really careful that I don't make a off by one error. What's going on here? Oh. chords dot y equals, what was it, 1 and 2, right? I should probably extract that to a new method, but right now I'll just do it like this. I'm just going to do a real quick check if that's okay. Wow. I think yes, I made an infinite loop. Gonna have to restart Unity because it's crashed, stuck in infinite loop. So yeah, I forgot to decrement instead of increment. Okay, no exceptions. In fact, I believe I should do it like this. Of course, we aren't getting any exceptions yet. We haven't even tried to access our buffers yet. Silly me. So yeah, now we're looping over those columns. Let's just say so. This is just to make it a bit more obvious what's happening. Let's see, into local chords is new xy. Buffer index equals what was it? For some reason I made a static out of that. I probably need to rewrite that. Get cell index. Create local. Not entirely sure if that's a global cell index or a local one. Oh yeah, it doesn't matter. That's true. Buffer index. Who needs a buffer index? That's a really weird word. Local coord. Yeah, this is how it should be. I can really notice that I'm getting tired now and really starting to make really weird mistakes. But I'm still having fun. I want to finish this before I wrap it up. Let's see. Okay, so we are. Do we have access to the buffers? Yes. So we access the solid buffer, get value for index. So that ball will tell us if we have a solid tile. If we do have a solid tile, then we can do two things depending on where we are. If this is the first solid tile that we encountered, then we should place a grass block. If this is not the first one, then maybe we should place dirt. Let's see. First, if solid tile and this is per column, so first tile is true. So we start with first tile is true. Oh no, wait, if we find an air block, then we will set it to true. If solid tile equals false, if not solid tile, then first tile is true. False. And in this case we should set the buffer to grass. I should probably swap these around, the index and the value, because it's not really intuitive, I believe. And if that's not the case, then we are going to choose dirt. let's see if this works without crashing and burning. Oh, that's not entirely what I expected. Oh. I forgot something. This should work better. It's closer to what we want. Maybe I should... Yeah, let's just make it a counter instead of a bool. And grass tiles. Cause let's just define a budget for grass tiles, and if we have spent our budget, then we cannot make any grass tiles. And we'll do the same for dirt. So basically, maybe like, let's set this to 1. Or maybe 2, that way it will be easier to see if it's actually working correctly. So maybe let's set this to 3. Dirt tiles budget. So if it's a solid tile, then yeah. Let's just get rid of this for a little bit. And then 0. Grass tiles, like in smokable. No, I'm talking actual grass, like on a football field. But I guess I guess someone will make a mod where you can smoke weed. It's bound to happen. Smoke weed every day. Uh, okay, let's see how this behaves. Da 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 da. Oh, this looks quite nice actually. It's almost what we want, but this is not not yet really really like we want. That's because he has a chunk boundary. It's a bit, yeah. Wonder what the best way to deal with that chunk boundary would be. Maybe we need to access a different chunk, but then we're kind of violating the rules of chunk generation. Because we don't know if the chunk above already exists. I'll just do like I'll move it to here. And then I'll do something like taking the first tile, and if that's a solid tile, then I'm not going to here. Guess we'll have to do it like this and then define it over there. Oops. Do you like fried chocolate bars? Like the authentical documentary TV show called New Kids? Uh, I know about New Kids, but I've never had fried chocolate bars. I have no idea how they would taste. Um, to be honest, it sounds really gross, but I might be mistaken. It might be really, really delicious. But it doesn't seem to be that it would be delicious. I do like fried chicken. Like I've occasionally cooked fried chicken a few times. And of course other fried things are also delicious. Like fries and I don't know what they are called in English. Kroketten and frikadel and gehaktstaaf. It's like the last one is a sort of a rod-shaped thing made out of ground meat and then fried. So if we are on the first tile, so chunk height -1, and if that tile is not solid, then we are going to set our budget. And if not, then our budget is going to be 0, 0, 0. Does this make sense? I know what you mean, I'm from Germany. Okay. Then you have access to the same kinds of fried goodness. This is kind of ugly, but yeah, maybe, I don't know. What if I do something like do we have a random noise thing? Yes, we do. So noise dot random. Oh wait, no, that's not what we want to use. mean seed does not exist? Oh, world seed. Capital. So maybe 1 to 3, so we get a little variation. Maybe 1 to 2. This is looking slightly more natural. It's kinda nice. This may be a bit more. That's a bit too random, is it not? Maybe this is not such a bad thing. Guessing this might be more appropriate. Of course, eventually you might have lighting, so it might not matter all that much. What do you guys think? How should it look? So I believe I can do pretty much whatever I want, other than this weird little thing, which is, I guess, might just be something we need to live with, because it happens to be the first tile in the chunk. Maybe I should make the grass a bit less. And then of course we also need to set the background value to all dirt. Because if you're going to dig away at grass, then on the other side might be dirt. Or maybe not, maybe that will also be grass. I don't know, really. Yeah, it's looking a little bit weird, but I don't know if it's going to matter all that much in the course of regular gameplay. Because eventually I want to add lighting, and then you probably will have less issues with seeing all of the terrain at once. So it will be less noticeable. But still, this is a really abrupt change. A really abrupt transition. Yeah, I guess I'll have to think about it. Maybe we'll use only. Maybe we'll use this thing only for grass and then use dirt using one of the noise values, like over here. I think that might be a better idea. Anyway, I think I'm going to wrap it up here. Let me just commit my changes. And then I think I'm going to end the stream. Oh yeah, I probably should extract that into a method. It's way too large. Um, generate grass. I don't need all that. Okay. Yeah, that's nice. I'm going to end the stream after this commit. I hope all of you had a good time here. I hope it was interesting. I know I had a nice chat with you guys. I hope to see you again, maybe tomorrow. Um, I don't know exactly when if or when I'll stream tomorrow, um, but I'll try to get at least a few hours in there. Um, I also don't want to stream too much because I do not want to exhaust myself and burn myself out. So that's something I really want to watch out for. It's grass and dirt generate generation to worlds generator. Okay. Let me just wait with the push until I'm absolutely sure I don't want to amend anything. Yeah, it looks good. So I guess I'll just no, don't need to commit now. Gonna push this. Of course, if you want to look at the project, there's a link below the video somewhere in the text boxes. There's also a Discord in case you want to continue the discussion. Yeah, see you next time. Weird Constructor, I had a fun conversation with you. Thank you for that. You too, Space Intern, if you're still watching. And I'll see you later.